The Minnesota Wild just made a serious statement after game one of their regular season by putting up some absolutely insane numbers with many people not expecting what they just did. We're going to be breaking it down, going over the star players in this game, as well as John Hynes releasing the timeline of every single injury that we have. We're going to be breaking it down, going over all of this news that we do have here today in this video. Before we do jump into it, though, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to ask you one favor, and that's if you haven't already, be sure to hit the sub button, join me here on the channel. We got a lot of Minnesota Wild news coming out daily. You won't want to miss it, and now especially with the regular season started, and the way that this Minnesota Wild team played in game one, you are not going to want to miss it. But we need to jump straight into this one here because I want to cover this game and go over it, and I want to get your guys' opinion in the comments below. So right now, let me know your raw game reaction. I'm going to jump into the stats here as well as what John Hynes did say here at the end of this game, going over the press conference about the injuries and whatnot. We now know the timeline for everybody. But when we take a look at this hockey stat card here, so much positive on this list. And Steve Boyum taking the biggest hit on the negative side of things. That is still going to be a little bit of a factor for the time being. Let's remember, it's his first regular season game. He still has a lot to learn, but he showed flashes of what we expect in Steve Boyum here in this upcoming season. We knew he wasn't going to come out of the gate flying, just, the best rookie defenseman that we've seen in years. He's a guy that is going to get there eventually. We don't want to pressure him. We don't want to rush him into this situation because we've seen what he can do. And we saw it this game. We saw the potential that he had. We saw what he can do in his game. And in a matter of time, we're going to see it every single game. So it's okay to see him start out like this. Not some great games, not necessarily the worst games, but we're going to start to see him evolve into that superstar that he has been touted to be. But as we go through the list, of course, the top line here, going over the top three on this list, Zach Bogosian and David Jiricek behind them, as well as Ryan Hartman, Yakov Trenin, and Marcus Johansson. This was a very positive game all around. And I feel like the score ultimately did come out and reveal that, especially when you're taking this game, winning this one 5-0 on 21 shots, 53% on the face-off dot. Weren't the most physical in this game, and that's something that we're going to have to really watch over this season for the Minnesota Wild, is that they do have the guys that can throw the body around, but there was a sharp focus on offense in this game, and it goes to show that the Blues were trying to do everything they could to stop the Minnesota Wild, and were not able to do it with their 40 hits and 26 shots as well, but that's also a thing that Filip Gustavsson is really going to hold here. 26 saves on 26 shots, an absolutely insane game from him, a very good start to his season, and while still under his contract before he gets to that extension, he's proving himself that very early on he could be worth very much more than what we did pay him. But as we go down through the defensemen as well, you see the time on ice, it is pretty evenly split with Zach Bogosian and David Jiricek being on that third line. But as we go to the second line and first line, it was pretty evenly split. I mean, Steve Boyum, for the performance he had over 20 minutes, it's an absolutely, perfect game from him. And of course, like I mentioned, it's a very good sign that for 20 minutes he's doing that. He still will get better. We saw the flashes of what he will become, and that's something that, this team is going to be taking into consideration game by game. But as we did see him on this game with the forward core that we have and the kind of lineup that we did expect, I really cannot complain about this game. I think it's very hard to complain. And a 5-0 win, even if you don't see everything you want to see out of a guy, especially like Steve Boyum in this case, it's perfectly fine. It's very much okay. But I did want to pull this up once again, because as we look at the bottom, you see Liam Öhgren, Hunter Heidt, Vinny Hinostroza. That fourth line. Now, this is where questions are being asked, because as we remember, we see Nico Sturm out long-term, 8 to 10 weeks, I believe is what it is, and we're going to have an update, the exact number, I just can't remember here, at the end of this video, but he is going to be requiring back surgery. And let's not forget, Michael Russo did come out and say, hey, if these guys are not performing the way we want to see them, they're going to have to go out and make some moves. And we know that Bill Guerin has the money to do it. The Wild have the money to do it. And we've had a name already in Jack Roslovic, who at this point right now is already signed by the Edmonton Oilers. So he is already out the window. They're going to have to make some moves to make something like this happen. And it's only a matter of time, I think, until we do see some action from Bill Guerin here. We also have Daniil Yurov, who is going to make his way into this lineup. I would even argue next game we may see him, whether or not it's next game or the game after. It's going to be very soon, regardless of what happens. But they're going to have a few games to see if they can make something work. And whether that means moving around that fourth line or simply just keeping what's working or what they're seeing right now and trying to get it to work, it's going to be a matter of time until we see something change on that side of things, whether it is a signing, whether there's a trade, whether it is having some of these younger guys come in. But it is the first game, so I'm not putting too much, hope in these guys that they need to get better right now, because I don't think it was overall a bad game, but you do want to see that get a bit better. And I mean, when you do take a look at how this offense did play out, they weren't on the ice too long. 10 minutes, for Hynes, 10 minutes for Hunter Heidt, and a little bit more for Liam Ogren in 10:30. So, I mean, you're looking at these guys not given the most opportunity here, but they have shown that they can do it. And I think at the regular season level, it just takes that a little bit longer. So I'm not too worried about this right now, because obviously a 5-0 win, you can't complain about that. I think everybody on this team played a very good game. And ultimately, if there was something that was a major mistake from any of these guys, you would have seen it on the scoreboard. But we didn't, so very good signs there. But we saw John Hynes speak out about what the plan and kind of how this team is structuring and what the most important part of their offense, not just offense, but also game and success chances are going to be. And this is what he had to say. And it's pretty, simple based on hockey terms. He says, we believe that the way we break out of the zone isn't the engine that drives our team. And one thing about this team in specific is that they have quite a few players that have extreme speed. And that's something they're going to be working with all year. We know that this team is getting younger, they're getting quicker, and if you could execute a good breakout here and catch your opponent off guard, whether that is in the neutral zone, whether that's heading into their defensive zone, the Wild have the players that they can do that and make that happen. So I think we see this Wild team, John Hynes, put an emphasis on this here. We saw it in this game, it worked very well. But when we come up against some other teams in here and we see it kind of repeatedly, I think we're going to get an idea then of how this did translate from last season to this season, with a lot of the players now that we have kind of all schemed together, a big kind of group of younger players coming in. It's going to be something that I think day by day we're going to see get better and better from this Minnesota Wild team. So I want to know what you guys think about that there in the comments below and how that really impacted the game. But we do have a bunch of updates regarding this team's injuries, because we have a lot, and I think that's something that this team needs to get back ASAP. And Zuccarello was quoted in a Norway outlet saying that he expects to return in early to mid-November. Now, John Hynes said he had not heard that, said humorously that would be great. So this is something that is very interesting, because the fact that Zuccarello said this reportedly, it isn't a Norwegian outlet, so we're not necessarily seeing it from an NHL source and a Minnesota insider source, but the fact that he's saying this and John Hynes saying that would be great, but it was almost humorously, makes me think that it would be probably later in November, maybe December by this, and it almost seems like John Hynes expects him to be out longer. So this is something that I think we're going to keep an eye on. Hopefully we do get word from Zuccarello or from the team that this is indeed true. I don't have the source here, so if anybody did see this, let me know in the comments below, like exactly what he said. Not sure if it was in English either, so I'm not sure, but let me know what it said if you did see it, and ultimately what came out of that from Matt Zuccarello. But going on as well, Nico Sturm, timeline is 6 to 8 weeks, expected to need back surgery. This is another one where there could be a few setbacks. It could certainly be longer than 6 to 8 weeks, especially where it is a back injury on a veteran like Nico Sturm. You don't want to rush him back. I guess that's a bit of a pun there, but you don't want to rush him back with a back injury. How important that is for the later part of your life, especially after playing a game like hockey where you're putting everything on the line. These players are putting everything on the line, and one setback could be a very, very bad thing. So 6 to 8 weeks is the reported timeline for Nico Sturm, and maybe, once again, another bit longer than what we're seeing here. But one final one in Jonas Brodin, and these are all by The Athletic, by the way. Michael Russo coming out post-game, putting this out. Defenseman Jonas Brodin missed the season opener following off-season surgery for an upper body injury, but Hynes said his return is imminent and could happen on the upcoming homestand. So, as we knew, Jonas Brodin would be back very soon, but it could be imminent, is what we're hearing. And this is big, because having Jonas Brodin back in this lineup, whether that means taking Bogosian out, whether that means taking Jiricek out, I'm leaning more towards Bogosian. But having him return to this lineup is another huge name to throw back here on this defensive side of things. Even though a 5-0 victory is a very good sign so far, you still want to get better on your defensive end, and I think limiting the shots like the St. Louis Blues had here, favoring shots in this game, is going to be a big part of their road to success. And we trust Filip Gustavsson, we trust Jesper Wallstedt, but if they don't have to do anything in a game, ultimately the offense is rolling, that's a much better scenario than having to rely on Filip Gustavsson or Jesper Wallstedt to come out here, shut down the opponent, and win a 1-0 game. So I think this team is set up for very good games coming up, and I feel like having this return as imminent is a positive, the most positive we've seen for quite some time on the injury side of things for the Minnesota Wild. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me know what you think about this game. a lot of exciting stuff coming for this Wild team. I mean, this was a great start. I'm very excited to see how this does come out now that everybody is under contract. I feel like all the pressure, all the weight off the shoulders is gone. It's just having fun now. And it feels like this game was different than last year with the team knowing that as well. So let me know what you think in the comments below here. But that is all I have in this video. If you did enjoy, give it a like, hit the sub button as well. I'm signing out though. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a great day. See you later.